The stack of papers sat in front of me like a loaded gun. My fingers brushed the edge, but I didn't touch them. Emily crossed her arms. Aren't you going to read them? I lifted my eyes to hers. Divorce papers don't need reading. They just need signing, right? Her lips curled in something between a smirk and a sigh. You make it sound so simple. It looks simple enough, I said, tapping the page. Black ink. A few signatures. Done. Her chair scraped against the floor as she leaned forward, pushing the papers closer. This isn't a joke, Michael. I can't keep living like this. I've fallen out of love. The words cut deeper than I thought possible, though her voice carried no tremor. Fallen out of love, I repeated, as if saying it back would make it sound less absurd. Is that what years together amount to? Just falling out. She avoided my stare, her nails drumming against the table. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder? My laugh came out hollow. You mean harder for you? Emily's silence stretched, heavy. Then she finally met my gaze. I should tell you the truth before you hear it elsewhere. I've been seeing Daniel. The room went cold. My grip on the chair tightened until my knuckles ached. Daniel, I said slowly, tasting bitterness on my tongue. My best friend. She didn't flinch. Your former best friend. Things happened. We didn't plan it. You didn't plan it, I muttered. It just happened. Right. I leaned back, my chest tight, my pulse hammering in my ears. Tell me, was it before or after he shook my hand last week and called me brother? Her eyes darted away again, guilt flickering before hardening. I didn't come here to argue details. I came here for closure. Closure. The word burned in my throat. You betray me with the man I trusted most, and you call this closure. Her tone sharpened. You don't understand. Daniel makes me feel alive. Something I haven't felt in years with you. The honesty stung worse than the betrayal. Still, I refused to let her see me break. So, what do you expect from me? Rage? Begging? Tears? Emily shifted in her seat, her jaw tight. I expected resistance. Some fight. I exhaled slowly, a bitter smile tugging at my lips. You wanted a scene. You wanted to see me shattered so you could feel justified. I wanted honesty, she said, her voice low. Honesty? I picked up the pen resting beside the papers. Its weight felt heavier than steel. Fine. Here's honesty. I don't hate you, Emily. Not yet. Right now, I feel nothing. Numb. Her eyes flickered, surprised. You can't mean that. Years together don't just vanish into nothing. Apparently they can, I replied, sliding the first page toward me. You proved that. She leaned forward quickly. Wait. You're really going to sign them? Just like that? Yes. The ink flowed across the paper, my name unraveling on the line. You thought I'd beg. That I'd plead with you to stay. But what's the point of holding someone who's already left me? Her face paled. You don't even want to talk about us. There is no us, I said. Not anymore. You chose Daniel. You chose this. She pushed her chair back sharply, the legs screeching against the floor. You're colder than I thought. I met her eyes one last time. No. I'm just done bleeding for someone who doesn't care. Silence swallowed the room. The only sound was the scratch of my pen as I finished the last signature. Emily's breath hitched. For the first time, her mask slipped. I thought you'd fight for me. I placed the pen down gently, slid the papers back across the table, and stood. You thought wrong. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. I walked past her, each step heavier than the last, but my face showed nothing. At the door, I paused, my hand on the handle. Good luck, Emily. I hope Daniel is worth what you threw away. The click of the door closing behind me was louder than thunder. For a moment, I stood in the hallway, staring at nothing, waiting for the pain to flood in. But there was only emptiness. A silence inside me deeper than grief, heavier than anger. I didn't fight for her. I didn't beg. I just signed. The walls had ears, and they whispered louder than any shout. I heard them at work, half hidden behind coffee mugs. Poor guy, ruined. Emily traded up, didn't she? Daniel always wins. The words weren't meant for me, but they slid under my skin anyway. At a family dinner, my uncle leaned toward another relative. Michael looks hollow. Divorce gutted him. My mother's voice cut in, sharp. Don't speak of my son like that. But even she, later in the kitchen, couldn't hide her disapproval. You're letting them walk all over you, she hissed, pressing a plate into my hands. Your father would never have allowed such humiliation. I set the plate down harder than I meant to. What do you want me to do? Fight him in the street? She crossed her arms. Fight for your dignity. For your name. People think you're weak. Maybe I am weak, I muttered, the words tasting like ash. Her eyes softened, but only for a second. You're my son. Weakness is not in your blood. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The next day, at a cafe, laughter carried across the room. Daniel's hand rested on Emily's thigh, her head thrown back in a performance of joy. They wanted me to see. Look who's thriving, someone at the counter whispered. I left before the walls closed in. That night, I sat in my apartment, the silence pressing against my chest. The phone buzzed. Sophia's name lit the screen. I answered, my voice flat. Hey. Her tone was gentle. Rough day. They all are. You want company? I hesitated. If you're not busy. Minutes later, she was at my door with 2 cups of coffee. She stepped inside like she belonged there, her presence quiet but steady. You didn't eat, did you? She asked, eyeing the untouched takeout box. I wasn't hungry. She sat across from me, pushing 1 cup into my hands. You can't keep starving yourself. That's letting them win. I gave a bitter laugh. They've already won. Everyone sees it. Emily looks radiant. Daniel walks around like he conquered something. And me? I'm the pathetic one. The man who signed without a fight. Sophia's gaze sharpened. Pathetic? You're surviving. That's not weakness. Tell that to my mother. She says I've lost my dignity. Your mother grew up in a world where pride was louder than pain. Don't measure yourself by her standards. I rubbed my temples. Then by whose? Every whisper says I'm broken. Maybe they're right. Sophia leaned closer, her voice low but firm. Michael, listen to me. Sometimes silence is the loudest revenge. I froze, her words sinking deeper than any lecture. Silence. Yes. They want your rage. They want you shattered. Every time you stay calm, every time you don't give them the scene they crave, you take back power. I stared at her, the weight of her conviction unsettling something inside me. You really think my silence means anything? I know it does. Look at Emily. You didn't beg. You didn't chase. That unsettled her more than any outburst would. Memories of her pale face at the signing table flashed through my mind. For the first time, I saw it differently, not just my numbness, but her surprise. Sophia continued. Daniel may look victorious, but deep down he knows he built his happiness on betrayal. People like that can't rest easy. Let them flaunt. Let them pretend. Your strength is in refusing to play their game. I sipped the coffee, the warmth grounding me. You make it sound like I still have a choice. You do, she said softly. You choose who you become after this. Broken, or rebuilt. The silence stretched between us, but it wasn't heavy. For once, it felt like a shield. I spoke slowly. All this time, I thought my silence meant defeat. But maybe it's the one weapon they can't touch. Sophia smiled faintly. Exactly. I let out a long breath. Emily thought I'd fight. She wanted tears. I gave her nothing. And maybe that nothing was everything. Now you're starting to see. Her words lingered, reshaping the edges of my pain into something sharper, quieter, stronger. For the first time since the papers hit the table, I felt the faintest spark of control. Not triumph. Not joy. But the beginning of something harder to shatter. The office smelled faintly of paper and polished wood, the kind of place where truth was buried in numbers. My lawyer slid a folder across the desk. You should probably take a closer look at this, he said. I frowned. It's just the settlement agreement. I already signed it. That's the point. He tapped the last section. Hidden in the property division. Emily's side was sloppy. Daniel must have assumed you wouldn't notice. My chest tightened. Notice what? He leaned back, lips twitching. Half. You walked away with half of her assets, real estate, stocks, savings accounts. All legally yours. The words hit me like cold water. That can't be right. Oh, it's very right. She thought the business partnership clause would distract you. But she underestimated you. Or maybe she assumed you were too devastated to pay attention. I stared at the numbers. My hands trembled, not from fear but from the sudden shift of ground beneath me. So, all of this is mine. He nodded. Yours, without question. Ironically, Daniel probably advised her to rush it. Their arrogance worked in your favor. I swallowed hard. Emily wanted me broken. Instead, she handed me her fortune. Precisely. He closed the folder gently. I suggest discretion. Don't flaunt it. Power whispers louder than it shouts. When I left his office, the world outside looked sharper, the air crisper. For the first time since everything collapsed, I wasn't just surviving, I was holding something they never expected. That evening, I called Sophia. Can I come over? I asked. Her voice was warm. Always. Minutes later, I was at her apartment, the folder clutched under my arm. She greeted me in the doorway, reading the look on my face. What happened? I set the papers on her table. Emily made a mistake. A big one. She opened the folder, scanning quickly. Her eyes widened. Wait, you own half of this? The properties, the accounts. All of it, I said quietly. She handed it to me thinking it wouldn't matter. Sophia looked up, shock flickering into something sharper. She gave you the knife she thought would kill you. I let out a low laugh, bitter but steady. Exactly. She thought I'd crawl away empty. Instead, I walked away holding everything she cared about. She won't realize right away, will she? No. Not until the statements arrive, or until she tries to move funds she no longer controls. Sophia leaned back, exhaling. Michael, do you understand what this means? I do. It means they lost without even knowing it. Her gaze lingered on me. Are you planning revenge? I shook my head. No. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I don't want their lives. I don't want their drama. I only want peace. But peace with leverage, she said softly. Peace with balance, I corrected. For once, I'm not the one left empty-handed. Sophia smiled faintly. This changes everything. You don't have to prove yourself to them anymore. They already gave you proof of who they are. I studied her face. Do you think I should tell them? Her expression hardened. No. Let silence do the work. Let them discover it themselves. The shock will cut deeper than anything you could say. I closed my eyes, picturing Emily's cold stare, Daniel's smug grin. They built their victory on my silence. Now silence will dismantle it. Sophia reached across the table, resting her hand lightly on mine. See? You're not broken. You're holding more power than they ever expected. And you didn't have to fight. You just had to endure. Her touch steadied me more than the papers ever could. I whispered, half to her, half to myself, they thought they destroyed me. But in the end, they destroyed themselves. Sophia's eyes glimmered. And that's the sweetest justice of all. We sat in the quiet, no need for more words. The folder lay between us like a weapon, but I didn't feel the urge to wield it. I didn't need revenge, not yet. Knowing I had it was enough. For the first time since Emily pushed those papers across the table, I felt not only steady. I felt untouchable. I first heard it at the cafe near my office. Two men in suits leaned close, their voices just loud enough to carry. Pulled his money out last week, one whispered. Daniel can't keep it together. Investors don't trust him anymore, the other replied. One collapse after another. I stirred my coffee, pretending not to listen, but their words lodged deep inside me. By the time I left, I knew Daniel's empire was cracking. Later that evening, I told Sophia. I thought he had everything, I said. She smirked. He had arrogance. That's not the same as stability. You think it's really falling apart? Whispers don't come from nowhere. If they've reached you, the fire's already burning. I exhaled, the faintest trace of satisfaction curling in my chest. So, they're not untouchable after all. Never were, she said. You just couldn't see it before. Days later, the whispers followed me again. At the grocery store, two women near the produce section spoke in hushed tones. Emily's still flashing those designer bags, but have you seen her face? She's exhausted. She's clinging to appearances. That life's slipping away. I walked past, my cart rattling against the tiles, pretending I hadn't heard, but inside I was steady. Their castle had cracks. The final confirmation came at the charity gala. I almost didn't go, but Sophia insisted. Show your face, she urged. Not for them, for you. Stand tall. So I wore the suit that hadn't seen daylight in months and entered the ballroom with my head high. The chandeliers glowed above, the music soft, conversations buzzing like bees. And then I saw her. Emily. She was draped in gold, a diamond bracelet flashing under the lights. Her laugh carried, but her eyes, tired, restless, betrayed her. Daniel stood beside her, smiling too widely, shaking hands with men who avoided eye contact. Sophia nudged me. They're desperate. I didn't respond. I only watched. Minutes later, Emily noticed me. Her gaze sharpened, and she glided over, heels clicking like daggers. Well, look who crawled out of the shadows, she said, her voice honeyed with mockery. Didn't think you'd dare show your face here. I met her eyes. Why wouldn't I? Because everyone knows, she smirked. You're the one who lost. Daniel and I, we built something unbreakable. Her words stung less than they used to. I only tilted my head. Unbreakable. Don't mock me, she snapped. Then her smile returned, brittle. Enjoy the view. This kind of event might be the closest you'll ever get to wealth again. I almost laughed. Instead, I glanced around the ballroom, at the banners, the stage, the very walls. Funny, I said. Since I own this venue. Her smirk faltered. What? This property. Part of the portfolio. I signed for it the day you thought you stripped me of everything. Her face blanched, the color draining as if the chandelier light had burned her. You. I nodded once. No need for more. For the first time, Emily's voice failed her. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. The laughter that had laced every word of hers earlier evaporated into silence. I stepped past her, my pulse steady, Sophia walking beside me. Behind me, I could feel Emily's eyes boring into my back, her disbelief almost tangible. Sophia whispered, "Did you see her face?" I allowed myself a small smile. It was enough. We moved through the crowd, business associates shaking my hand with a respect they hadn't offered before. One leaned close. "Smart acquisitions," he murmured. Words spreading. I simply nodded, letting him draw his own conclusions. Power didn't need explanations. From across the room, I caught Daniel speaking to a cluster of investors. Their stiff expressions told me everything: hesitation, withdrawal, mistrust. His grin looked plastered on, like paint covering cracks. Sophia noticed too. "They're slipping, Michael. Everything they flaunted is rotting beneath them." "I don't have to touch it," I said quietly. "It's collapsing on its own." The night stretched on, glasses clinking, laughter forced. Emily never approached me again. Daniel avoided my eyes altogether. I didn't chase them, I didn't need to. As we left the gala, Sophia looked at me. "So, how do you feel?" I paused on the steps outside, the night air cool against my skin. Stronger. Not because I beat them, but because they finally see I was never as weak as they believed. Sophia's hand brushed mine. "That's the fire I've been waiting to see in you." I let out a slow breath. It's not revenge I want. It's balance. And tonight, for the first time, I felt it. The image of Emily's stunned face followed me into the night, not as a ghost of pain, but as a spark of quiet satisfaction. The cracks in their castle were spreading, and I didn't have to lift a hand. I was locking up the office when I heard the uneven footsteps. The night was quiet, the streetlights humming, and then her voice, slurred, broken. "Michael, wait." I turned. Emily stumbled toward me, her heels scraping the pavement, her perfume mixed with the sharp sting of alcohol. "You shouldn't be here," I said flatly. "I had to see you." Her eyes glistened, not with pride this time but with something raw. "Please, just listen." I crossed my arms. "What could you possibly say that matters now?" She wavered, catching herself on the railing. "Daniel, he isn't who I thought he was." A bitter laugh escaped me before I could stop it. "Now you figure it out." Her voice cracked. "He only loved me for what I could give him, connections, money, appearances. Not me." "You're surprised?" I asked. "That man thrives on taking. You just thought you'd be the exception." Her mascara smudged as she wiped her cheek. "I thought I was different. I thought he chose me because." "Because what?" I cut in. "Because you were prettier. Richer. More useful than the rest. You weren't chosen. You were convenient." She winced. "You don't have to be cruel." "I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest." She gripped the railing tighter, her knuckles pale. "Tell me something, did you ever love me? Truly?" Her question hung heavy in the cold air. For a moment, I searched myself, wondering if the man I once was would have answered differently. But I wasn't him anymore. "Yes," I said at last. "I did. More than you deserved." Her breath hitched. "Michael." "But that's gone now," I continued, steady. "There's nothing left. Not love, not hate. Just, nothing." She stared at me, as if waiting for me to take it back. I didn't. Her lips trembled. I ruined everything, didn't I? You made choices, I said. Now you're living with them. Her shoulders slumped, her perfect posture collapsing into defeat. I thought I'd be happy. I thought leaving you was the right move. And now, her voice cracked again. Now I feel hollow. I held her gaze without flinching. That's not my burden anymore. She reached for me then, a desperate, trembling hand. Maybe we could. No, I said sharply, pulling back. Don't finish that thought. Her eyes filled again, tears spilling down her cheeks. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked small. Not glamorous, not untouchable, just small. I should go, she whispered. You should, I replied. She swayed on her heels, then staggered into the darkness. I didn't follow. For a long moment, I stood alone, the silence pressing in around me. No anger burned in my chest, no lingering ache. Just emptiness, strangely freeing. Then I felt a touch on my hand. Michael. Sophia's voice. Gentle, steady. She must have come out after hearing the commotion. She found you? She asked softly. I nodded. Drunk. Broken. Looking for something I can't give her. What did you tell her? The truth. That I loved her once. That it's gone now. Sophia's fingers threaded through mine. Warm. Sure. And how do you feel? I looked at her, really looked. Empty. But not lost. Her smile was faint, understanding. Emptiness makes room for something better. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. You always know what to say. I don't need the perfect words, she whispered. I just need you to know you're not alone anymore. Her presence was grounding in a way Emily's never had been. With Sophia, there were no games, no masks, no endless performances. Just truth. I squeezed her hand. Thank you. We stood there in the cool night, the hum of the streetlight above us, the city quiet around us. I thought of Emily stumbling into the dark, chasing pieces of a life already crumbling, and I felt nothing. For once, that was enough. Sophia leaned closer. Let's go home. The word lingered, home. Not a house, not a facade, but something real. Something I hadn't known I'd been searching for. I nodded. Yeah. Home. And for the first time, I didn't look back. The news came in pieces, whispers carried through business halls, broken fragments I couldn't ignore even if I wanted to. Did you hear? One associate muttered at a luncheon. Another investor pulled out. His company's bleeding, another whispered over wine. Debt's piling faster than he can cover. I sipped my drink and said nothing. At the charity dinner, the chatter sharpened. Daniel begged me for a loan last week, one man confessed. I told him no. I'm not sinking with him. Smart move, his companion replied. He's finished. Their words buzzed around me like flies, but I stayed quiet. I didn't need to add anything. The story told itself. Later that week, I caught sight of Emily across the room at another gathering. Her gown sparkled under the lights, diamonds at her throat, but her smile, it faltered every time someone turned away. One woman leaned close to her. So sorry, dear. We simply can't extend credit again. Times are difficult. Emily's laugh was brittle. Of course, I understand completely. But I saw the tremor in her hands as she set her glass down. I didn't approach her. I didn't need to. Over coffee one morning, Sophia stirred her cup slowly, watching me. You've been quiet lately. I've been listening, I said. To what? The sound of Daniel's empire collapsing. She tilted her head. And how does it sound? I considered the question. Like silence after a storm. No celebration. Just, stillness. Her eyes softened. You don't feel joy? No, I admitted. Not joy. Not even anger anymore. Just calm. He's tearing himself apart without me lifting a finger. That's the truth of it, she said gently. Revenge doesn't heal. Letting go does. Her words lingered, sinking deeper than I expected. I leaned back. So you think I should just move on? I think you already are, she replied. Watching him fall without needing to push, that's freedom. You've reclaimed yourself. I looked at her across the table, the morning light softening her features. She wasn't lecturing. She was reminding me of something I already knew. The next week, rumors turned into headlines. Daniel Caldwell declares bankruptcy. Business mogul faces foreclosure. Lavish lifestyle crumbles under debt. In the cafe, I overheard two men at the next table. He's begging anyone who'll listen, one scoffed. Used to strut around like he owned the city. Now he's just another man drowning in IOUs. Poetic, isn't it? The other said. Built his castle on sand. I didn't smile, didn't nod. I simply finished my coffee. Sophia walked with me in the park later. Leaves crunched beneath our feet, the crisp air steadying. You could reach out, you know, she said softly. To him? I asked. To Emily. To either of them. Closure doesn't always mean silence. I shook my head. Silence is my closure. Every word I don't say is louder than any speech I could give. She slipped her hand into mine. Then let the silence be your victory. I squeezed her hand lightly, the truth settling inside me. I didn't need the world to know I'd been wronged. I didn't need Daniel on his knees. Watching his kingdom collapse without my interference, that was justice enough. A week later, I saw Emily again, this time at a gallery opening. She stood near the entrance, dressed impeccably, but her eyes betrayed exhaustion. A woman brushed past her, pretending not to notice. A man offered only a curt nod before turning away. I caught her gaze for a moment. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but I turned before she could. My silence carried everything I needed to say. Sophia touched my arm. You don't owe her anything. I know, I said. That's the point. By the month's end, Daniel was gone from every circle that once praised him. Invitations vanished, calls unanswered. His name, once shouted with admiration, now only whispered with pity. Such a shame, someone murmured at a fundraiser. He had it all. No, another corrected, he only looked like he did. I left before the night ended. Their gossip wasn't mine to savor. One evening, Sophia and I sat on the balcony, the city lights flickering in the distance. She leaned against me, quiet for a while before asking, "Do you feel lighter now?" "Yes," I admitted. "For the first time, I'm not carrying him with me." She smiled faintly. "That's because you never needed to win against him. You only needed to win yourself back." I let her words settle. Daniel's downfall wasn't my triumph. My triumph was choosing not to let him own another piece of me. The silence stretched between us, not empty but full, of peace, of release, of something close to freedom. And in that silence, I realized she was right. My silence was the loudest victory of all. The knock came late, sharp against the quiet of my apartment. I opened the door and froze. Emily. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged, hands trembling as she clutched her bag. "Please, can I come in?" I stepped aside without a word. She moved quickly, as if afraid I'd change my mind, and stood in the middle of the room, shaking. "I didn't know where else to go," she whispered. "You found me," I said flatly. "What do you want?" Her breath hitched. "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. I thought I was choosing security, comfort," her voice broke. But I lost everything. Daniel, he's ruined. And me. I'm ruined too. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. So now you come here. Tears streamed down her face. I loved you. I still love you. I just didn't realize it until too late. Her words pierced, but not as deeply as they once would have. My chest ached, but it was a quiet ache, dulled with time. You left me, I said softly. You chose him. I thought it was right, she sobbed. But it wasn't. Please, give me another chance. We can start over, rebuild what we had. I shook my head slowly. Emily. She stepped closer, desperate. I'll do anything. Just don't turn me away. Don't let this be the end of us. Her tears fell onto the floor, her shoulders trembling as if the weight of her choices had finally broken her. For a moment, I almost reached out. The echo of old love stirred inside me, a flicker of memory, her laughter, her warmth, the life we once dreamed of. But it was only a flicker. I no longer hate you, I said finally, my voice steady. She looked up, hope flashing in her eyes. Then. But I no longer love you either. The words landed between us, heavy, final. Her lips parted, then closed again. Her sobs filled the silence, raw and jagged. You can't mean that, she whispered. You can't. I do. She staggered back a step, as if struck. After everything, after what we were. What we were is gone, I said. I mourned it. I raged at it. I bled because of it. But now I let it go. She covered her face with her hands, sobbing harder. I don't know how to live with this regret. That's not mine to carry, I told her. The silence stretched, broken only by her cries. I stood still, unmoved, though my chest felt tight. Forgiveness wasn't painless, but it was necessary. The door opened softly, and Sophia stepped in. She paused at the sight of Emily, then moved to my side without hesitation. Her hand slid into mine, warm and certain. Emily's eyes lifted, swollen and wet, and she saw it, the quiet finality, the bond between us that her return could not sever. Her voice cracked. So that's it. I've lost you forever. You lost me long ago, I said gently. This is just the end of the echo. Sophia squeezed my hand, grounding me. I turned toward her slightly, and in that moment, I understood what true release felt like. Emily's sobs quieted into shallow breaths. She looked at me one last time, searching for a fragment of hope. But there was none left to give. I'm sorry, she whispered. I forgive you, I said. Not for you. For me. The words felt like a door closing inside me, final and clean. Emily's face crumpled, but she nodded weakly. With trembling hands, she opened the door and stepped out into the hall. Her footsteps faded, leaving only silence. I exhaled slowly, the weight slipping from my shoulders. Sophia rested her head against me. Are you all right? Yes, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers and murmurs, the air heavy with perfume and fragile pride. I adjusted my jacket, glanced at Sophia beside me, and whispered, "Ready?" She smiled softly. I was about to ask you the same. We stepped inside together. Heads turned. Conversations dipped, then shifted. My name passed from mouth to mouth, not loudly, but in ripples, quiet, curious, undeniable. Is that him? Someone whispered. He's here with her, another voice replied. I walked calmly, each step steady, not rushed, not hesitant. Sophia's hand brushed mine, grounding me. Near the center, I saw them, Emily and Daniel. Their smiles were thin, their laughter strained, their posture rigid like glass about to shatter. Sophia leaned toward me. Do you want to leave? No, I murmured. I want to see this through. As we approached the table, Daniel's forced grin faltered. He raised his glass too quickly, nearly spilling. Emily's eyes darted away, then back again, wide with something between fear and shame. Did you expect this? Sophia asked. Yes, I said quietly. But not for them, for me. A man at the table leaned closer to Daniel, muttering just loud enough. So that's the one. Daniel stiffened. Emily's hand twitched against her dress. I caught her glance, pleading, fragile. I looked past her. Sophia whispered, they're unraveling. I don't need to pull the thread, I said. It's already happening. We took our seats at another table, across the room. People approached, some I knew, some I didn't. It's good to see you again, one woman said warmly. Stronger than ever, another murmured. I smiled politely, answered briefly, but never lingered. This wasn't about attention. From the corner of my eye, I caught Daniel forcing laughter, too loud, too brittle. Emily nodded along, her smile trembling at the edges. Their empire of appearances was crumbling under the weight of whispers they couldn't silence. Sophia nudged me. Do you hear them? I hear enough, I said. Does it feel like victory? She asked gently. I thought for a moment. No. It feels like freedom. Music began, soft and elegant. Couples drifted to the dance floor. Sophia tilted her head toward me. Shall we? I stood, offered my hand. Always. As we moved across the floor, I felt the eyes again, watching, comparing, wondering. Not about them, but about me. Sophia smiled up at me. You're not the same man I first met. I know, I admitted. Back then, I was fighting ghosts. Tonight, I'm dancing with the living. Her laugh was quiet, genuine. I like this version better. So do I. We spun gently, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't looking back, or ahead, or at the ruins of what had been. I was simply here. Emily's voice drifted faintly from their table, sharp with panic. Daniel's reply came clipped, defensive. Heads turned their way, then back toward us. Sophia leaned closer. Do you want to say anything to them? No, I said firmly. Silence says everything. Minutes passed, light and weightless. When the music paused, we stepped aside. A man I barely knew approached, nodding respectfully. You've changed, he said simply. I smiled. That was the point. He left with a knowing look. Sophia touched my arm. You realize they're the past, don't you? Completely. I realized at the moment I walked in, I said. She tilted her head. And what are you now? I looked around, the chandeliers, the whispers, the broken pride at the far table, the warmth of her hand in mine. I'm someone who rose again, I said. Her eyes softened. From ashes. Yes, I nodded. But not to destroy. To live. We sat once more, calm at the center of the storm that wasn't ours. Daniel's laughter grew thinner, Emily's silence heavier. Their pride cracked like glass under pressure. But I didn't smile at their collapse. I didn't need to. Sophia whispered, they'll remember tonight for a long time. Not because of what I did, I said. But because of what I didn't. As the evening drew on, the crowd's attention shifted fully. I wasn't a scandal, or a tragedy, or an afterthought. I was something else, something untouchable. Sophia squeezed my hand again. You're free. I breathed deeply, letting the truth settle. Yes. I am. The night ended with no confrontations, no raised voices, no revenge carried out by my hand. Only the quiet certainty that I had risen above it all. As we walked out into the cool night air, Sophia glanced at me. Final words for tonight? I stopped, looked up at the sky, and let them come. I did not rise to destroy. I rose to live again.